Today, we have Robert Sidney Mull joining us on New Hollywood, the podcast that we meet with interesting creators, people in fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment. Rob has been a part of many different projects throughout the past couple of years. You can see him as the attractive guy in the Little Dicky video, more searched than Melissa Soraya, which is a fun fact about him. He sold his first company when he was a freshman in college in Santa Barbara to Levi's for sadly $15,000 when he could have gotten a lot more.
Yep.
And then thirdly, he's an all-around amazing dude who rides motorcycles, has been the face of multiple brands in fashion, and being more than just a good-looking face, he's also been in the tech business.
Thank you for the intro, Ashwin. It's a pleasure to be here. This is going to be my first podcast ever.
Okay.
And I'm excited. And the view is awesome. The staff is amazing. And I mean, you and I have been friends for almost 4 or 5 years now.
I'd say about, 4 or 5 years.
We met in Boston, right? Because that's what I keep telling people.
So we met actually in the funniest of set of circumstances ever. I got a random text message from a girl I haven't talked to in years because Dave's manager, who's Little Dicky, Mike, took like spin classes with her. And they were looking to find like dancers for their like second concert ever. And at that point, like pretty much I just saw like that one video that you're in, like Ex-Boyfriend,
Yep.
which was going viral. And it was like his first set of touring. And then I ended up meeting you over there.
That was in Boston, though,
It was in Boston, yeah.
Yeah.
In Alston, at this small venue.
That place was so much fun, though.
It was such a trip. And it was a great show.
It really was. And his shows have only gotten better, which is literally insane.
Are you still like the finale? Are you the grand finale still?
I don't know. I haven't been to a show since not this most recent October, but the one before. We've kind of both he's super busy doing his, super celebrity thing. I mean, the guy's doing amazing. He's got his pilot coming out with FX and Scooter Braun and Kevin Hart are producing.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm doing something totally different, trying to break off from the fashion and pursue an acting career. We both are just doing different things right now. So we haven't seen each other in a while, but I mean, we still stay in touch. And I mean,
that's the cool thing about entertainment is you can stay in touch. Like me and you didn't really talk that much for a long time. And then we randomly connected back out here in LA. And I think that's normal for a lot of people that are chasing something aspirational.
100%. I mean, we hadn't seen each other in almost 4 years until I moved out here.
And like, that's a big part of like what this podcast was put together for was Hollywood is a city built on relationships. People moved out here. They're from very unorthodox paths and they just had a dream. They had something that they wanted to accomplish, something that they wanted to do. And they found other people from other weird paths and weird relationships and figure out a way to make it happen. So
totally.
That's like a big relation of it. The New Hollywood sign with the coyote, because coyotes work well alone and they work well in great packs,
Yep.
It's just kind of figuring out your own way of doing it.
LA is an amazing place. For the reasons that you said, you meet more people in LA that are not from LA than you do that are from LA. And at the end of the day, it kind of can be hard to meet people that are like-minded here because there's so many of us and LA is so spread out. But at the end of the day, once you find that set of people that you click with and that your ideals match, everyone's always trying to help everyone get to wherever they want to go.
Yeah.
Even if it's not in the same realm. Everyone's always hoping and doing whatever they can to get someone to that next spot. And
that's less than 1% of people are actually out here for anything entertainment related.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's not even that many.
Literally no idea.
And I never meet anyone that has normal jobs either, which is like the funniest thing.
I literally say this all the time, but whenever I go to like a restaurant, they're in the middle of the day, I'm like, what the shit? Does anyone here work?
No, everyone has make-believe jobs. So how about we start off kind of with, where you grew up and how you ended up like deciding that you don't want to be in an office from 9 to 5.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Bay Area, just outside of San Francisco. I was born in Oakland and I was raised in a town called Lafayette, which is just inland of the Oakland Hills.
Okay.
And I ended up going to school after high school in Santa Barbara for a year. And like lacrosse was like kind of my thing. Decided that college sports was not for me because it didn't allow me to have the social life that I really wanted to. And I was living with my sister at the time, my older sister. And so I dropped the sport, I picked up extra classes, and I moved back to San Francisco at the end of the year. And by that time, after my freshman year of college, I was already a junior. And that way I did that because I wanted to kind of slow down life and take a second to figure out what was important to me. Because, I think it's fucking ridiculous that, for the most part, when you leave high school, you have to declare a degree. You got to declare what you want your education to be in. And at 18, 17 years old, that's the most insane concept on planet Earth.
What did you declare?
I didn't. So
you chose to be original.
Yeah. But for like a lot of schools, like for instance, like San Luis Obispo and like a lot of these more competitive state colleges, especially in California, at least is for what I can speak to, you have to declare a degree because it's such a competitive environment. They can't have all of these undeclared students. And I just wanted to slow down life and I wanted to gather more experiences. I wanted to start going to Lake Tahoe as much as I could. Being in the Bay, it was like 2.5 hours. I wanted to work more. I just wanted to do as many things as possible because I knew that in a set amount of time, I was going to have to pick a path at school. And that was essentially going to be the way that I focused my education. And so after a year of community college at Diablo Valley College in the East Bay, I transferred to St. Mary's College. The only reason anybody knows St. Mary's College is because of basketball. Yeah. NCAA. Like they're one of the smallest schools that reaches, the NCAA tournament for the most part. But by the time I was a senior, I found what I thought was my dream job. Because I had, as you know, I sold the clothing company to Levi's my freshman year of college.
How did you go about starting that company?
So me and my buddy from high school, we just wanted to do something different. I've always found fashion to be a very interesting thing because it is, and everyone says this, but it's a way to like speak your personality without having to say a word. I also find, my body type is, I'm very tall and my legs are really long. And so I have a very particular style because I don't like my legs to be seen very long. And so I wanted to make clothing that minimized my proportions, that like made me seem a little bit more proportional.
So you love that long shirts are in right now.
Oh my dude. The long line tees are like my jam. But, I also found out that like, I don't like wearing brands. Like if you look at me now, like you look at me ever, you'll never see a logo on me. And it's just, I hate the idea of having to pay a company to be an advertisement.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that you'll ever see on me is a graphic, but the graphic will never have to do anything with the brand.
Well, it's such a crazy concept because brands pay money to be on billboards. Brands pay money to have people mention them on the radio. Brands pay money to make commercials. Why are people paying to be the advertisement?
100%. Like, you look at like a Gucci sweatsuit and it says Gucci up the sleeve. It says Gucci down the pants. Like, and people are paying thousands of dollars. And it literally blows my mind. And so, I love a little bit of flair on my stuff, but I also love it very simple.
Okay.
And so me and my buddy came up with this idea and we called it Denizen, which means an inhabitant. And the whole premise was an inhabitant of California. Okay. So someone that lives here, someone that knows the culture, because California does have a very distinct culture from any other state. A lot of the other states have their own distinct culture, but ours is very different.
People all over idolize California. Growing up in Boston, we have Hollister stores and PacSun, and everyone wants to be a California native.
Yep. And even Florida being, a state on the East Coast, it's a very different vibe than it is here.
Yeah.
And so we kind of did we were young, so we didn't know enough looking back, but we tried to embody what we thought California culture was. And we did it by creating these really unique designs and printing them on these shirts. And we tried to sell them around school. You know, we actually got in trouble because on weekends we would go to all of the high schools around the area and pin flyers everywhere. The school district called me a handful of times, telling me that like, you can't do this, like you can't advertise. And my smart mouth was like, my parents pay tax dollars. Like, yeah, I can do what I want. And it didn't end up working out, but we sold enough and to like stay in business while we were in school. But I was essentially trying to mimic this gentleman who I knew through my sister, who she babysat for, and he had started a very successful clothing line. And I don't want to mention them because him and I have had a falling out, and so I literally cannot give his brand a shout out.
No, I respect that. Now, did you use social media at all? Because probably that's around like MySpace, Facebook.
No, I mean, this was kind of pre-social media. He had a company that did essentially blanks for companies. So he would like create a product and then like you as say like, I don't know, like Young and Reckless, let's say. Yeah. Even though this is way before Young and Reckless. Like I would sell you something and you could print whatever you wanted on it. But it was like a very good product. It was made in California, blah, blah, blah. And he made a killing. But so I kind of modeled everything after him and I tried to apprentice him as much as I could. And the one thing that I did right was all of the legal paperwork. I filed for trademarks. I owned the name. I owned the websites. I owned the logo. I owned all of that. And when I look back, and I did it years ago, but when I did the math, I think I made like 2 or 3 cents an hour. And this was over the course of a year and a half. Yeah. And one day I was in Santa Barbara, and this was because me and my buddy, we parted ways after high school. We both went to different colleges. And so we decided to stop the business. And one day when I'm in Santa Barbara and I'm about to go into calculus, I'm sitting on the beach, just reading my book. And I literally remember this like it was yesterday, but I put my hand down in the sand to get up to go to class and get a call. And it was from some guy, a lawyer in Washington. And I went, holy fuck, like, and he was like, this is in regards to your trademark, Denizen. And I literally started shaking. I was like, in my head, I was like, what the fuck? Like, did I do something wrong? Did I file paperwork wrong? Like, what did I do?
Am I going to jail?
Yeah, I was like, I messed up. Holy shit. And he was like, well, we have someone that wants to buy your trademark for $5,000. And I had to go to class. And so I was like, fuck, like, dude, like, let me call you back. Like, gave me his number, all this shit. They wouldn't disclaim who was trying to buy it. And after class, I ended up calling this guy that I used to work for and like was trying to apprentice under, and he was like, ask for $100,000. And so I was 18. I asked for $100,000, and the guy was like, we'll pay you 15. And I was like, done.
Because 15's better than $100,000 when you're a kid, you know?
100%.
You're 18 years old.
$15,000 for doing like literally nothing at the time. Like we were doing nothing with a trademark. It would have run out eventually. Had he not called me, it would have expired and it would have just been up in the air. But yeah, so I ended up selling, and it was, I mean, I partied like a rock star that year. I mean, I didn't drink anything out of a plastic bottle. I paid for everything for all my friends because we had our parents, you know, paying our living accommodations and shit. Like, we were really lucky individuals, and we spent it like assholes.
I mean, it's a fun budget. 15K is just purely for fun and entertainment. But it's also, you're making 2 to 3 cents an hour when you're building that name up. And regardless if it's selling or not, that's how a lot of businesses and a lot of people become successful.
Yeah.
They invest that time to build something that has name recognition, has a value, and people want to buy it. Perceived value. That's the number one selling thing in America.
100%. And like, the thing is, like, so my buddy and I came up with the name because we had English class together, and Denizen was one of our words for the week. Yeah. And it's just a really interesting word, Denizen. And like, it has a meaning that you wouldn't never guess. Like an inhabitant. Like it's just a very interesting word. And so it just kind of clicked. And so we kind of owe it all to this woman, her name was Miss Moore. But I mean, if it weren't for the legal paperwork, it would have all happened. But push comes to shove years later, when I found out who I'd sold it to, and this was literally years later, like at least 2 years later, I found out who I had sold it to because they would never disclaim it because they didn't want me asking for a lot more. I come to find out that they had already, before they even looked into the trademark, they had built an entire brand that is now probably a $500 million brand. At the time, it was around $100 million brand. And they had built it all around this idea of Denizen.
So you could have definitely got at least your $100,000.
Oh my God. We could have gotten so much more. But I mean, they also knew that to take advantage of us because they knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford a lawyer. They knew how young I was. And they literally just capitalized on it. And in all honesty, I don't blame them.
I mean, that's where you needed a representative. I mean, that's the biggest thing, that even in entertainment, there are kids that are 18 years old that have massive levels of fame, and people are constantly going after them. They're like, hey, I'll give you $2,000 to $3,000. And the person that's setting up the deal is walking away with $97,000, if not more, in a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
And people are pumped, you know, they're like, I would have done it for free.
Yeah, and like the funny thing is too, like I asked my mom, because my parents, like I talked to my parents about it too, but like at the end of the day, like no one really thought in that reality that it would have been as big of a deal as it turned out to be. I mean, myself included. I didn't think Levi Strauss was trying to buy my name. I thought it was some little podunk fucking piece of shit company that was like, we need this website, we need this, because there was no Denizen anywhere else other than me.
You're just happy to get rid of it and make some money back for the time you spent.
In all honesty, I totally forgot about it.
That's so even trippier.
So it was just stoked. But then when I found out later on, I was like, what the fuck? Like a multi-billion-dollar company just took advantage of an 18-year-old kid. And I can't help but laugh about it.
It's kind of hilarious in hindsight.
It's hysterical.
Did you ever buy any Denizen products after that period of time?
Fuck no. I can't get myself to. Every time I look at the billboards, I just laugh.
Now, did they ever book you for a shoot after you started modeling? That would be a hilarious coming to.
So that was the funniest thing when I started. So I started working for this tech company when I was at St. Mary's, and that's why I left St. Mary's, was to pursue this like dream job, which is business development for a tech firm in the city. And when I was on my way to work in the city one day, I got scouted. And it was from this person from Levi's. And they were like, hey, listen, we have this thing coming up. Come in for a casting. We think you have a great look. So I went in and I booked the job. Ended up signing with a modeling agency in San Francisco. And so the first job was an internal fashion show for all of Levi's, which is, Levi's also owns Dockers. So it was Levi's and Dockers combined, and it was just a fashion show to show their product to all of their employees before it went to market. And then after that, I kept my job in the city, and they would hire me for these internal presentations. So they came out with a new line of denim or, like a new line of some shit, and they would hire models to wear it so that while their salespeople could pitch it to the high-level executives. And presentation had to have been a week or two after my very first fashion show. And the CEO of Levi's was in there. And I'm texting my mom, and I'm just like, holy shit, like, he's in here, like, and she was like, go talk to him, like, ask him. And I walked up to him, and I was like, after the whole thing was over and he was about to leave, and I was like, hey, like, my name's Robert Mull, like, I used to own this company called Denizen. And he kind of looked at me, but he had no part in this 100%. Like, he's got lackeys to go do that.
It's too small of a deal for him to even care about.
100%. It was a concept back then. And I was like, yeah, so like I owned Denizen, and I was doing nothing like they planned on doing. I just owned the rights to all of the shit. And we started talking, and I told him what had happened, and he goes, how much did we get? Like, how much you get it for? And I was like, I got like 15. And he was like, he literally laughed at me. It was like, you could have gotten so much more.
He's like, you should have got 15 million.
And it just confirmed, like I started laughing too, because I was like, it just confirmed everything I knew after finding out who had bought it. But I mean, it totally made sense why the lawyers kept it under the table. I mean, they knew I was 18. They knew I was in school.
I mean, that's how you learn too. Nothing in business you learn from a textbook. You learn by doing it, and you learn by losing, quite frankly.
And in all honesty, I mean, like people say, like, I mean, that was like a lesson you had to pay for. Like that was a free lesson. I mean, I made money on that lesson. It was, you know, that freshman year of college would have never been the same had that not happened.
Listen, otherwise you would have lost money running Denizen.
100%. I mean, it was literally just, it was sitting there doing nothing. We had been unoperational for about 6 months at that point when that happened. And so, I mean, I'm happy with the experience. I mean, it ended up launching my career in a totally different trajectory.
Okay, so now you're modeling. You're still working your full-time job. What makes that button in your mind switch off? Was it just like, I hate being in this office, or I just want to change, or hey, modeling is a good way for me to diversify my network?
I think it was kind of a mixture of both. Initially, it was the fact that I realized, and I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but I realized that I was never meant to sit in one place. I mean, I would not be a good office-based employee. I'm a very good salesman. I mean, that's kind of what modeling is. It's selling. Like, your product is yourself. But I need to be out in the world meeting people. 9 months, 10 months into my job in San Francisco, sitting at a desk all day was when I fully realized, I was like, holy shit, like this was supposed to be my dream job. And I can't stand it. Like, it's not meant for me. There's a ton of people, and I do not look down on anyone or judge anyone for doing that. I mean, my family, my sister and my mom are both real estate agents. Like, they work in an office most of the day. But I perform very poorly being confined to a space and a desk. It literally, I mean, like, there's certain people that just tears their soul out.
It's true. I mean, it really depends. Like, there's certain people that want to guarantee in life. So knowing every 2 weeks you're going to get a paycheck for X amount of dollars. And there are other people that are more comfortable taking that risk for something greater, or to live a life with more experiences or being more in control.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually funny that you say that, because I'm also like, my mom and I have had this talk many times, but I'm a person of extremes. There are two extremes in life that I'm totally okay with. One, I want everything and more that life has to offer. Two, I'm also very comfortable and very okay with, buying a ranch out in the middle of Fuckville and just living off the land and living a life of solidarity. But like, the middle ground makes, to me, 0 sense.
I'd say I'd agree, because if you look at the culture between extremely rich and extremely poor people, they're much more similar. Rich people and poor people make deals based on relationship-based economies, whereas the middle class either just works barely getting by or lives off of just doing the manual labor that the rich don't want to do.
100%.
So you learn a lot more when you're taking those risks, and that's why there's so many riches to rags stories, or rags to riches. Either way you can swing based on what deals you're making and how it works.
And either way, they're also working for themselves. Like, for the most part, the extremely rich people are self-employed.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from even actors, they are self-employed. They do get their paychecks from other companies, working for studios, doing TV shows, X, Y, and Z. But these farmers out in the middle of nowhere, like, they're working for themselves. They may not show it on paper as making a ton of money, but they're paying for their own food. They're paying for their own water. They have wells. They have livestock. They have, they're growing their own vegetables. It's a very similar ideology.
Plus, they're in control of the most valuable thing that any of us have, regardless if it's you, me, or the president of the country. We all have the same 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
And that's how you choose. Like, that's your real valuation, is your time. Whatever you invest your time into is what you care about.
And it's funny that you actually say time too, because I mean, like, as I'm sure you know, and I've actually heard you speak about this, but the extremely wealthy people in the world, they start their days very early. And it's because the very early portion of the day is the most constructive. Because, I mean, people that get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would probably, and I don't know what the exact number is, but there's a very low percentage of the population that gets up that early. There's way less distractions. And so you accomplish so much more between 4 and 8. And I mean, the same thing with these people that work on farms. They get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they've got their property, they've got their livestock and everything that they have to handle. So, I mean, there's a ton of similarities, but they're just on the polar extremes.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm naturally a night owl, but since I switched up to being up by 5:30, 6 a.m., I actually have clarity. I can get my workout in without having a million text messages, because let's take a look where we're at right now. On average, I'm at over 300 text messages per day. Today, I'm at 354 unanswered text messages. And that's just from today. I get it below 100 every morning. And that's how much noise there is. So, like, when I'm taking time to meet with someone, or if anyone isn't responsive, it really is a devaluation of my time. And that's my most valuable commodity. And that's everyone's
100%.
most valuable commodity.
I couldn't agree more.
So you ended up deciding to pull the switch on the modeling career. You gave your 2 weeks, and then what happened?
No, I didn't give 2 weeks.
Oh, you didn't give 2 weeks.
Oh, no, I literally had a talk. I decided one day that I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. And I went home and I talked to my parents, and I had left school for the job, and I was still supposed to be in school. I was a senior, about to go into my second semester of senior year. And we had this talk, and I was like, I can't fucking do this. And my parents gave me an ultimatum. Excuse me. And the ultimatum was, if you leave school, if you leave now, we will not finish paying for school, which to me was totally fair. I mean, my parents were not, they are not, like, I wouldn't call them wealthy. My parents live very comfortably, though. Come from a conservative family. My dad was in the military for 26 years. My mom's a real estate agent. But they also, I did 2 years of community college and a year and a half of a private school that, even because the private school is right next to my house, was $35,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. A lot of money.
It's a stupid amount of money. And so I thought that was totally fair. And my mom gave me that ultimatum. And she has never admitted this, but I honestly think that she did that to try and persuade me to stay. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't rationalize staying and spending more of their money, because even though it was only one more semester, I had found out through work experience that what I was pursuing as a degree wasn't something that I wanted to pursue in life. And $17,500 for one semester, in all honesty, I think it was, still today, I think it was the best call. And I do want to go back and finish school. I need to say that. I do want to, but it needs to be on my terms.
It's a full-time annual salary for most kids that graduate from school.
Exactly.
It's about $38,000 to $45,000.
And since I don't want to do anything with that degree, I feel like I should pay that. I honestly feel like I should have paid the entire thing, but that's not the situation I grew up in. So I went home and had that conversation, and my dad was a pilot for American Airlines, and so I flew for free until I was 23. And at the time I was 22 or 21. So I booked a flight to New York for the next day, went into work at 5 o'clock in the morning, literally just sat at my desk and waited for the CEO to come in because he was always the first one in. And with my suitcase next to me, I had this conversation with him, and he was super stoked. He was like, yeah, you need to go. His name was Rip Gerber. He's like, he was like, you need to go, you need to do this. Like when my kids like get to high school, like I'm not going to let them go to school right away. I'm going to send them to New York. He was like a serial entrepreneur. The guy was one of like my favorite people I've ever met, in a business sense for sure. And I told him, I was like, yeah, like, I'm sorry I couldn't give you my 2 weeks, but like I quit and like my flight's in like 2 hours. And he was like, get out of here.
That's such a trip. That's the opposite of how most of those conversations go.
It was weird. I literally thought he was going to be mad. And so I hopped on BART in San Francisco and I went to the airport. And then, I mean, I stayed there for 2 weeks. I went out with like a really small suitcase. I had to interview with all the agencies there. And after I found representation, Fashion Week was coming up. And so I came back out for 3 days to San Francisco, packed up all my shit, and I was there for like 4.5 years.
I mean, what he told you is very true because you talked about it earlier, which is at 18, how do you know what you want to do? I picked my college major because I watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Dates. I thought Matthew McConaughey's job sounded really cool.
Yeah, sports marketing
And beer and like, you know, shock marketing. It sounded so amazing. I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do because that's the closest thing to entertainment that sounds like a 9-to-5 job that I can reasonably sell off. But when I was applying to schools, I was like, you know, I'm not really sure if I want to do that. So I applied to an acting school at Wagner. I applied to like fashion school, applied across the gambit because at 18, you're not really sure because you don't have the life experience of trying out different things.
No.
And the school system pretty much just teaches you a ton of skills for the most part, which you're never really going to use. I remember when I was in 10th grade, I had a teacher that's like, well, you need to learn how to use that parabola. So what am I going to use a parabola for? And she said, if you're ever going to need to build a bridge. I said,
what the fuck am I going to have to build a bridge for?
Listen, I'm not coordinated enough to build a bridge. If I'm building a bridge, we have bigger problems.
If I'm building a bridge, the only way we're going to know it works is whoever tests it.
Whoever tests it. And I don't want to be the guy to test it. So, you know, to this date, I tell everyone I've never used a parabola since then. I've gotten master's degrees and I've taught at different universities. And it's really, you do better at things that you're focused or you're actually passionate about. Because in undergrad, I was focused on trying to build up my businesses and touring and working with different celebrities and managing models that, you know, I was going to be a low 3-point-something GPA student. Whereas when I was getting my master's, I was in class 2 days a week total, taught 2 classes during the day before I went to my class. And I toured 5 days of the week.
Where'd you go to school?
I got my undergrad degree at Bentley, which is a very student-type business school. And I got my master's at Emerson, the film school.
Rad.
Yeah, which is a trip. And funny enough, right behind us over there is Emerson Campus LA, which kicked off everything.
Where's Bentley?
Bentley's in Waltham, Boston too.
Is that why? Were you at school there when we met?
No, I was at Emerson.
Oh shit!
Yeah, right before I moved to LA.
No way.
Yeah, it was a trip.
There's so much I don't know about like the time that we met because it was such a hectic time.
No, it was such a trip. And then what was even funnier about the time that we met was when you came to that first party that I threw for Ty. Your friend Luca, who was also at the event, came by.
Yeah.
Which is such a small world of, you know, people. And
Luca and I are an interesting duo because we've kind of followed each other. I mean, we've known each other since, he's 3 years younger than I am. Since I was maybe like 13, so he was 10. And he moved out to New York. We kind of lost touch. And then I was talking with one of our like mutual friends who's like kind of both of our best friend. And he told me Luca was there. And so when I moved out to New York, I ended up moving in with Luca.
Okay.
And we lived in literally a studio apartment together that was probably a quarter size of this part of the studio.
That's a trip.
We didn't have a kitchen. We shared a mini fridge. There was one twin-sized bed. There was another twin-sized blow-up mattress that we blew up every day. We cooked on a hot plate, and we took turns squatting down in the shower because the shower was really small. Squatting down in the shower, scrubbing dishes on our knees, and then putting them out on like the bathroom mat.
That's a trip.
It was insane. And then, he was in DJ school out there, and then he ended up moving out here, and then 2 years later, I ended up moving out here. So like we've kind of just been following each other around the world.
That's gnarly.
Yeah. The kid's amazing. You know him. He's one of the most genuine human beings on planet Earth. And he's one of the most talented musicians I've ever seen perform.
Oh, that's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Listen, you've had an eye for music talent. You knew Dave before Little Dicky was a thing. How do you identify talent in a music artist?
I don't know, man. Someone that just clicks with you, like your person. And I mean, Luca and I had like a big talk about this, because whenever I see people trying to start off in music, I always bring up Little Dicky, because David Byrd was probably the most calculated musician, I think, to come out in our current generation. That guy had a plan, but he also, he worked for an ad agency called Good Bees, Silverstein and Partners, and was making very good money, was doing humongous projects, but he knew exactly how to market himself. He did the Hump Days. So his, after that first music video launched with me.
How did that idea come about? Like, how did you decide to be in that music video, or how did he approach you with that concept?
So he actually he had a full-time job. I had a full-time job. There's a line in that song that says Grecian God, and I'm Greek, and I have a Greek tattoo. And 2 days before his shoot, the guy that he had initially booked dropped out.
That's hilarious coincidence.
And so my agent, he reached out to my agency, and he saw that I had a Greek tattoo, and he reached out and asked for me. And then him and I got put in touch, and he sent me one of the other music videos he had already shot, his very first one. And I was like, dude, this shit's hilarious. Like, you're going to be huge. Like, I'm in. And so that's how that ended up happening. And the reason we met was because his encore was our song. And so, like, as you know, like, I'd go out on stage with him and do like a little routine.
That's so funny.
It was totally like just a random coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing in life is a lot of people go into situations or events or even parties. They go into expecting to meet someone or build some relationship with like someone random. I've always had the philosophy of I'm going to go into any situation without as much information as I need to be able to get in and get out and plan my day. But I'm going to go in with no expectations. I'm just going to be fully present in the now.
And just be yourself.
Be myself, and whoever I click with. And that's just much more natural, and it's always worked out really well for me.
You can always, especially at like, as you know, especially at industry events, you can always point out who's there to meet someone. And it is literally one of the funniest things for me to watch. Like, I can always tell which girls are lurking for celebrities. And I'm just like, I sit there and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, they're not going to go for you. Like, especially here, like, you're in the totally wrong environment to be lurking for this athlete, like this musician.
Dude, I mean, I completely get it, because I'm not atypically what people would think of as someone that's an entertainment executive or someone that has like the relationships or the friendships that I do to make these things happen. Because originally I was way younger than a lot of people, and now I just look a lot younger than my age.
How old are you?
I'm 30, dude.
Shit. Okay, I'm 27.
Yeah, most people think I'm like probably like, how old did you think I was? Probably a lot younger.
I was gonna say 28.
Yeah,
and that's only because I'm turning 28 in November.
Yeah, and like normally most people are gonna guess 22, 23, and what they would do is they'd immediately discredit or discontinue until they found out like who's on my client roster or exactly the projects that I've done, and I find that to be really trippy with people. People just assume, and then they miss out on opportunities.
I mean, like, it's like we were saying earlier, but like this city and like a lot of, I mean, just this industry in general is built around relationships. But the way that you build those relationships that actually can help take you places is by just being your genuine self.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are out there seeking those relationships are the ones that are going to just hit and miss for a very long time, because it's so blatantly obvious and no one wants to be used.
No, it's sad. Everyone wants to be genuinely, if you're my friend, I want to be able to go grab tacos with you at that street corner cart on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, and then if I can help you out down the road, if I can help you out at any time, of course I'm going to help you out. And like, I mean, that's just kind of how it works. But like, just because we met one time doesn't mean like you can ask me for a goddamn fucking favor.
Yeah. It trips me out. It's so funny to me because like my philosophy has always been like, if an opportunity comes across my desk and I know someone that can do it, even if I don't rep them, I just plug people together. And people are like, well, why are you doing this?
You're brilliant at that though.
Yeah, like there's so many random things that I've like brought you into, and like most people get so defensive. They're like, well, why are you doing this? I'm not hurting for money or anything like that. I'm like, I just figured it's something that you wanted to do and it doesn't hurt me. And it just puts goodwill out into the world, which is so like
karma points, bro.
Karma points. And you feel good when you do that sort of thing.
You've seen other people that you actually like truly, sincerely care about, like succeed or better themselves. And even just the smallest way. Like, I mean, like if someone asked me like, cause like we know a lot of like people that own clubs or, own restaurants. Like if someone asked me like such a minuscule favor, like a good friend, like, hey, can you help me like get a job at a restaurant? Dude, I'll drop everything I'm doing, like, and make every call I have.
Yeah.
Just because, like, and it just doesn't benefit you in any other way, but like, we want to see people that we care about, like, making steps to better themselves.
Yeah. And my philosophy has always been like the people that can do nothing for you or that like people assume can't do anything for them are always going to be the people that take advantage of that opportunity, do the most with it. They make you look great. And then once they succeed, a lot of times they come back and they say, hey, I really appreciate that you gave me that shot. And for me, I usually am like, I just got you in the door. It was you that kept yourself in there.
And that's honestly the truth though. And people take that as kind of like a humbled response, but it's the truth. Like at the end of the day, like someone like you can make the intro. It's like
I can put you in a room with anybody, but
put me in a room with someone. But at the end of the day, like I may make you look like an asshole, but it's up to me to close the deal.
Yeah.
Or to like even just walk out of it having learned something. It's not always about making something happen, but just gaining knowledge in that certain realm.
That's key. And it's really about finding your mentors. And with that said, like, how did you go about finding a mentor in like the modeling game or the entertainment space once you got out to New York? Did you have anybody that gave you any advice or you just have to learn it on the fly?
And in all honesty, like the modeling stuff it's probably like one of the more cutthroat business experiences I've ever had. So I ended up having to meet all these agents and whatnot. And every agent, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone in this industry is a salesman.
Yeah.
The agents are trying to sell you on their capabilities. And so by the end of like 3 days, I'd met with 15 different agencies, and every agency has about 4 or 5 different agents. And so I'd met with probably like 60 agents, and I didn't really know what to do at that time because they're all trying to tell you what they want to hear, or they're being super mean. Like my very first meeting was with this one agency called Red Model Management in New York. And the guy opened my portfolio, and I'd been there for not even 24 hours. And he looks at me and goes, you ruined your look with your tattoos. And he shut my book and told me to leave. And I called my agent in San Francisco. I was like, holy shit, that guy was an asshole. Like, is this what it's all going to be like? And he told me no. And I ended up moving forward, and it's all about like picking who you kind of vibe best with, because there's only a couple modeling agencies in particular that everyone knows, like outside of the fashion world, like Wilhelmina, Ford, IMG. Those are probably like the only 3 that if you were to ask someone that knew nothing about fashion, the ones that they know of.
And One Models is pretty big.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you were to ask like someone from like San Francisco that didn't know anything about modeling, I guarantee you they'd only say Ford and Wilhelmina. Because I honestly didn't know who IMG was until I was involved.
That trips me out just being an entertainment guy, because IMG is so massive in that space.
See, so I thought IMG was sports, which they are.
That's true.
But I didn't know like how big of their spectrum was. But so it's not about like being with the biggest agency, because I mean, it's like you and I were talking earlier, but like managers and agents, they tend to focus on their top performers, and they do have other ones, but the vast majority of their energy goes into their top performers. So it's not necessarily in your best interest to be with Wilhelmina or Ford as you start out modeling, because they'll send you out for jobs, but they're also sending their top boys out for those jobs too. And they don't care who books it.
As long as they still get a check, it doesn't matter which cup is making me the money, as long as one of them is.
As long as one of them is. And so my agent in San Francisco he informed me about all this and told me to go with whoever made me feel like they were going to actually spend the time developing me, because modeling in every city is so different. Like San Francisco is a very commercial. New York's a very
runway.
It's runway, but it's also very sexual. Like there's a lot of shirt off stuff, underwear stuff. And in San Francisco, it's not like that at all. Like your portfolios are totally different in every city because they need to be geared towards the market that's there.
Okay.
And so I ended up signing with someone, but they'd put us in contact with these models that, they've developed and that do really well. But what I came to find was no one really wanted to help you that much. They would entertain your questions and they'd entertain you to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, the models themselves saw you as competition. So like if you were a new model and we had the same agent and they sent you to me to ask for advice, they were essentially like, I'd be giving you like the bare minimum to not piss off the agent, but also not to give you like the insight on what I use to book jobs, because at the end of the day,
I still need to book my own job.
I want to book a job over you. If we get sent out for the same shit, like I want to book. And so it was really weird. And so when I got to New York, I ended up I worked at Lululemon for 8 months full time because I needed to pay my bills. And it took about 8 months for me to figure out what separated people that were booking from every other model. Because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of models.
Everyone I meet in LA is a model.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a city of prom kings and prom queens, and everyone has a hope and a dream. And you really have to differentiate yourself.
And every agent is telling every single person that they represent, oh my God, you're the most beautiful thing. You're the special one. You have the sauce. Like, you're going to be the one that makes it. And they're literally reciting this shit to every single person they represent.
Sounds like a pickup artist in a bar.
Exactly. And so it finally came down to me. I was like, because I'd go into these castings and I'm like, fuck, like, not to be vain, but I was like, I'm better looking than him. I'm better looking than him. And all this shit, for like literally months. And then finally I came to find out that it wasn't so much about how you looked, but it was about how you carried yourself and how you acted. And that's when it came to me that this is a sales job. If you're holding a casting and you have 20 guys in like the lounge that you're auditioning, like, who do you want to spend 8 hours with? You see our books, you can make us look just like that. For the most part, we all look fairly similar, but it's like came down to me as like, who do you want to spend 8 hours with?
Who do you want to drink a beer with? The usual job test.
Yeah. And so, it took a long time for me to figure out how to read people and how to pick up on their vibes. And I failed so hard, so many times. Like, I got pushed out of castings sometimes. Like, I never got called back to a lot of them. But after a while, like, I got better at reading people and picking up their vibe, and I got better at making friends. Because, after being told this shit for so long, like, you're so pretty, like, you're the next superstar, it gets in your fucking head, and you walk around like with a big head, and you look like an asshole, and you sound like an asshole, and no one wants to be your friend.
Yeah. People hate you after a while because of that level of confidence that instills in you, but it's a double-edged sword. So, like, the thing I think that's very interesting about it is having that confidence definitely helps you succeed. It helps you get that face of Perry Ellis type of thing. So I'd love for you to tell how you ended up landing that, but also share a couple of like things that you've done that end up being failures so that people can avoid doing like the same mistakes. Because everyone makes the same mistakes, and a lot of people don't want to hear about their failures.
Do you want me to start off with...
Let's start off with the failures.
Failure. Okay, so I had this audition for Axe in New York one time. like the body spray. And we went to this like casting, and it was the biggest casting to this day I've ever been to. You literally pulled a deli number and you waited. And I was like 200 people away. So me and my buddy Danny from London, we decided like on this, it was in this random building in Soho, and it was on the third floor, and on the first floor was a bar. And we had both been booking really well that month. And so we were really cocky and really arrogant. And the second we left the building to go down to the bar, we had a couple of drinks, we go back up. Our numbers had already been called, and they were like probably 4 or 5 past. And so I literally just was like, fuck these. Like, I don't know who any of these guys are. I mean, also, like I said, there's thousands of models everywhere. And so I just bullied my way to the front, and we had to do like a video, an audio, stills, and then we had to meet the client. And I was like, fuck it. Like, the client's not going to know what I just did. Dude, I got into the room with the clients, and they started asking me questions. And then someone came up and whispered in my ear, like in their ear. And they just stopped talking to me, and they're like, get out. And I was like, what? And they're like, get out. Like, we don't need your shit, like, at all. Like, there's hundreds of other people here that want to be here. Like, and you decided to leave, and you came back late, and you missed your number, and you thought you could just cut in front of these other guys that waited their turn.
No one's better than the process.
No. And that was like a huge learning curve for me. Like, huge. It was like, I kind of left it, like, fucked with me for days.
That's a big thing even on sets, like treating the makeup people, treating the PA as well. Because all of these people advance. And that's the thing a lot of people don't realize is people think that because of where they're at right now, that that person is beneath them. But the thing that people don't realize is everyone has a dream. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. So all those people are going to move up and down. And really the only thing you have is your name and your reputation, how you treat other people.
And like, that's kind of what it came down to, is like, just treat others the way you want to be treated. Like, even if you're, you know, the first name on the call sheet, like, you don't treat, you know, the people below you, the people that are listed below you, like shit. Like, no matter what, no matter how much you're getting paid, I mean, just treat everyone like an individual. Because at the end of the day, like, those people that are doing the minuscule jobs, that is not their dream job. It's a stepping stone for them to get to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I mean, they may take shit from you if you give it to them, because once again, they're trying to achieve their dream. But like, why the fuck do you need to be that person that sinks down to a level to test how much shit they're going to take? Because they shouldn't, at the end of the day, they shouldn't have to take the shit in the first place.
And like we said, it's a small town, it's a small business, it's a small game, and you're going to run into that person again.
Yeah. So worst, how I booked Perry Ellis was actually totally by mistake. So there's a humongous Instagram model named Andre Hammond. He's this guy from Germany. He's got a beard, great looking dude, super sweet. German guy with a beard and like these really immaculate, colorful tattoos. He think he has like probably like 1.2 million followers on Instagram, some shit like that. I was the number 3 model at our agency at the time when he came into town. And so our agency called me in and they asked me to like get him acquainted with the city. And this was during Fashion Week, like I want to say like either 2016, 2016, I think. And so I'm showing him around and I'm taking him to like all of his castings so that he doesn't get lost. And he was the only one at our agency that got called in for Perry Ellis. Excuse me. And so I take him to Perry Ellis. We go up in the building and he goes into the casting and he was the only one there. And then I'm sitting there, right? And he comes out like probably a half hour later. And the guy that walked him out was like, "Are you a model?" And I looked at Andre, and Andre was like, "Yeah." Tell him, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You have a book?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so they called me back. I gave them my book, and we just started hitting it off. Like the creative director was in there, Michael Macari, their whole marketing division, all this, like their designers and everything. And they had me start trying on clothes, and we all just clicked super well. And by the time after I left that, Andre and I go out of the building, and we're on our way back to the agency in Times Square. And I kid you not, when we got to the agency, our agent called and was screaming at me and was telling me to come to the agency. So I was like, "I'm at the bottom. Like, I'll be up in like the 11th floor in like 45 seconds. And when we got to the top, the president of the agency, all of the men's bookers and the director were all in the conference room. And they called me in, and they were like, started scorning me. "Robert, like, you cannot crash castings. You can't do this. Like, it makes us look so bad." And I was like, "What the fuck? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. You literally asked me to take him to his shit." And
You were actually being helpful, which most people in that situation would never have done.
100%. And then they go, after all of that, like, I'm freaking out. I'm just sitting there just like, "What the fuck?" And then they go, "You booked the job. Andre didn't." And so that was my very first fashion show with Perry Ellis. And then I worked with them for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And I was the face of them for 2. I was going down to Miami almost like once a month. I opened and closed their Fashion Week show, did a campaign with them. Michael Macari, the creative director, and essentially the entire team, we got super tight. Like, we all hung out outside of work. But like, it's like what I was saying, like,
Yeah.
it's about making friends. Like, you want to help out your friends.
I mean, it's also reciprocity, because you looked at Andre and he was like, "Yeah, tell him you're a model. Go in there." And that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people view it that only I can be successful. If I'm known for business, I'm going to be the biggest and best. And I don't want any of my friends to be there. But the thing about life is, you naturally, we're tribe animals. We need people around us. The more you elevate all the people around you, the more stuff that you learn, because there's a lot of things that I know, and there's a lot of things that you know. And if I'm able to teach you one thing that I know, then you're able to teach me something else. We both better ourselves.
100%. Which is funny too, because Andre, out of the entire group, was the only one that wasn't upset. But the agency was upset because Andre did not have a following like he has now. He probably had around like 350, 400,000 followers back then. But they were upset because I booked the job over him, and they were worried that that would cause him to leave the agency. Because back then, Instagram fame was so much more important than it is. Or I wouldn't say it's so much more important. It had such a bigger impact then than it does now. Because now you can't tell whose following's fake or real.
It's clouded.
It's very clouded. But back then, like, I mean, he was kind of just hot shit on social media. He wasn't a model. He was just hot shit on social media. And so they were worried that he was going to drop them because I booked a job over him. But him and I are still great friends.
That's a trip. Now that you mentioned social media, how big of a part is social media in like your business?
I don't know. It's kind of hit or miss. I mean, for the most part, at almost every casting or audition, they do ask, how big is your following? I do find anyone less than 10,000 has a very hard time booking consistently. I wouldn't say booking period, but booking like on a consistent basis. Because I mean, if you had a clothing line, I mean, all these models want to post their work, right?
If you have 200,000 followers, I'm going to possibly be able to have more people to target.
If you have 200,000 followers, and if it comes down to you and person X, and person X has 1,000 followers, I mean, I'm almost guaranteed that you're going to post it if I book you. That's 200,000 viewers that I don't have to pay for in marketing. That's a billboard I don't have to buy. And I can pay you guys the same. So, I mean,
unless you have a good manager will get you more for your followers
100%,
and the post.
100%. But then that's something else. It's another piece of the pie I have to pay them, which I don't want. But I'm personally not convinced that it really has a definitive effect on like the performance of a brand.
And honestly, I'd say I have to agree because, you have a solid social media following. You have like 60, 70,000 followers?
No, I mean like 40 tops.
40, okay. 40,000 followers, but I know people with millions of followers and people with hundreds of thousands of followers that have billboards all over LA. They're making significantly less for day rates than you do. How do you like differentiate yourself as more of a premium player than somebody that just wants to do a gig for the sake of doing gigs?
So here's the problem with social media models is that the second, because I also, like on the side, I do.
You're an actual business person too. You've got a tech company. You've had some fashion plays.
I do a social media strategy for fashion lines. The second, if I'm working for a fashion line and I'm looking to book you, I approach it in two different ways. I approach it either, hey, like I can give you a flat rate, which is going to be low because I cannot be guaranteed that A, your following's real, and B, also like, I mean, so you're a girl with 1.2 million followers, right? And you're just hot girl. And I work for a female clothing brand. And what you're posting is just a bunch of like bikini pics and shit. And they perform very well, right?
Because you have a lot of third world traffic.
The other thing too is like, at the end of the day, like the
Probably
people
attracting guys.
the people following you are not the people that I'm trying to sell to. Like I'm trying to sell to women. Your 90% of your following are just horny boys.
Do you know what we call that in social media marketing? You want to find guys that have guy followers, and for women, you want to find women that have women followers. Those are like the golden geese of social media.
100%. And like, I mean, 75% of my following are gay men.
I believe it.
Yeah. But so once you make, I mean, Andre did it perfectly. Andre makes, the guy that I was talking about earlier, makes a very decent living just off his social media, but he waited until 500,000 followers to do one single paid advertisement. Because the second you set your rate,
It's your rate.
it's your rate. And like we were saying earlier, it gets out. People, it's a small circle. You set your rate, say it's $1,000 for one post. No matter, even if after that post your following grows huge, your rate has been set.
And that's even if you have an NDA. That's what trips me out is I've had clients come up to me and they're like, hey, I just want to do this for my one friend. And I'm like, do you know what's going to happen with that one friend? That one friend's going to be at a bar one night and they're going to tell another friend. The other friend's going to tell 5 more people. Then you're going to go from making $100K a day or $1 million a day to making that 3 to 5, or they're going to significantly cut whatever your rate is on other projects. So they're going to feel like they got cheated.
Exactly.
Your time's only worth as much as you're willing to deem it to be worth.
Yep. And so the other thing that I find really funny too is when I was doing social media strategy for this one company in particular, they didn't want to pay people up front. So they gave me like the leeway to either gift product for free to any social media influencer, or to give them the opportunity to do a contract, like a 1-month contract where we'd give them the product code and they'd make 15%. But here's the kicker too. You can tell whose social media following is fake or legitimately engaged by who agrees to that contract. Because if you have 1 million followers and I'm following you and you're a men's stylist or like a men's fashion blogger and you have 1 million followers, 15% of sales would be huge if people were actually engaged in what you're talking about, as opposed to like just a bunch of hot chicks following you because you're shirtless. I mean, so when I was doing this with this one brand, I did one post with, I won't say who, but I did this one post with this girl that had 1.8 million followers, and we put her on contract for a month. And we ended up at the end of the month paying her around $800. And we did another post with this other girl in San Francisco. And the girl A was a bikini model. Girl B was this little fucking fashion blogger up in Napa, California.
She crushed it. Guaranteed.
She had 1,500 followers. We paid her like over $2,500 because people were actually following her because the material that she posted was engaging and they were actually interested in what she had to say.
Yeah, no, it's like a lot of people are always like, well, you rep all these large celebrities. How come you don't have 1 million followers yourself? I have like 23,000 followers total max. And what's trippy about that is some of the biggest deals that I've landed, like 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 deals have came through Instagram direct messages of people that relate to the content or are curious about it. And usually they'll ask some like non-evasive, generalized question about something for advice. And they'll be like, okay, cool. Well, I actually have this project with the check. The first time it happened, I'm like, this has to be somebody like just pulling my chain because their page is poorly put together. Meet up with them. They have a massive office. They write a check. I go to the bank. I make sure it clears before I do anything. And that's always like the best moment in life is realizing that social media and just your reputation a lot of times gets you what you got because that person was like, I found you on social media, found 3 people that I knew that followed you, and I asked them about your reputation. They said, you're a great guy and you've always over-delivered, and that's why they chose to go with me, and they wrote the check so quickly.
But the only way that works, like you said, is if you're real.
If you're real and if you're authentic to exactly what you do.
I think the biggest mistake models make, and I literally I laugh all the time I open Instagram because I have so many friends that are models, right?
Yeah.
And they're good-looking guys, they're good-looking girls, and they'll post a super sexy photo that would perform extremely well, but then they post like some fucking quote from Nietzsche. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're so unoriginal that you had to post something that A, you didn't say, and B, I know for a fact you don't read. Like, you Googled inspirational quotes.
That's very true.
Like
most people can't relate to, everyone needs to have everything prepared. So they need to know what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, and how it's delivered.
Have an original thought. Like, it doesn't even need to, like, an original thought, like, clearly. I mean, you don't even need to be making a stance or anything, but like,
what's your spirit animal, Rob?
My spirit animal is an orca.
Why?
They're predatory. They are friendly. They roll in packs, but their packs are small and they stay together for life, which is like my big thing. I'm very select. I have very few friends, but my friends are friends for life. Like, people don't like go in and out of my life anymore. It used to happen, but
quality over quantity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, and he broke it down to like 2 minute, 2 hour, and 2 day friends. Who are friends you can only spend 2 hours with, or 2 minutes with, 2 hours, and 2 days. And I came to find out that like literally 98% of the people that I was spending my time with did not reach, like, I could not go on a trip with them.
No, most people don't have any substance when they're communicating with other people. They just want to be liked.
They have, especially like FOMO. It's like the biggest thing I have here. Like, you make plans with someone and then 3 hours before you're supposed to meet up, they all of a sudden have, oh shit, I forgot about this. I'm like, you didn't have that.
City of best offers.
You just made that. Don't be a dick. Like, tell me the truth. Like, tell me the truth and we can continue this friendship, but like, don't be a fucking prick about it.
See, that's my biggest pet peeve about people in LA is like, listen, I get it. It's a city of best offers. If you get a better offer, I'm cool with you taking that.
But be real.
But be honest about it. If you tell me like, hey, I got a ticket to go to the Super Bowl, great. Like, congratulations. Dude, we'll hang out later.
We talked about this at what, like noon?
Yeah.
Had I, like, even if I didn't even, if I was like, shit, like, you know, I don't really feel like going, I would have called you and been like, fuck, dude, like, you know what, like, I don't think we can do it today. Can we do it a different day? I wouldn't have just like been like, shit, you know what? Something came up. I got a booking. I got to go.
And do you know what trips me out? It's only my successful friends that would ever do that, because anytime, like, there are a lot of people I invite to a lot of different events, or people that I invite as plus ones to things. usually if it's a successful friend, they always let you know well in advance. If they make a plan, they stick with it. If it's somebody that's aspirational, somebody that's trying to climb, or somebody that I'm trying to help out, more often than not, they'll ask me exactly who's going to be there. Do they have an opportunity to get something from that person? And then they might flake out at the last minute. But like that whole process bothers me because I'm a big believer in like whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. You're not guaranteed a future. Your past doesn't really have to define you. And you only have two types of problems. Ones you can do something about and ones you can't.
100%.
So you just got to go with the flow. Ask what the dress code is and what time you need to be there. That's it.
I think last night's like a good example. Like I felt bad because like I couldn't stay the entire time, but like I still had to make it known that I came like at the showing last night. And so like I came, I stayed for like 3/4 of the movie, and then I snuck out the back because like I was like, fuck, like I knew that I had that engagement previously, and I was like, fuck, but like I still like there's no reason for me not to come right now. Like
plus you're able to meet some really dope people, and that's my favorite thing about like what I get to do is I get to connect a lot of my friends together and just like see cool shit come to life.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what two people can create.
And it's amazing. And that's the best part about life is like just helping everyone on their journey.
Yeah, well, doing the journey together.
And that's the best.
Like, I mean, you look at like some of the most successful people on planet Earth, especially in the entertainment industry, but like you see like Adam Sandler constantly casting like in movies with the exact same people. And they're not like the movies aren't related. But then if you do digging, they've been friends for a very long time since the get-go.
From the New York stand-up days a lot of times.
It's like Seth Rogen and James Franco. Like they've been friends since they were little kids. Like you make these connections when you're young and like you stick by that person and you grow together. Like that's supposed to be the whole point. It's kind of why I truly appreciate hip-hop artists, because no matter whether or not like necessarily like their friends are good artists, they'll do whatever they can to get that person the opportunities to show their greatness. Whether or not they succeed or fail from that is something totally different, but they'll create the opportunities. And that's like what I think a lot of like the new generation in LA and just the entertainment industry in general are missing. Everyone's always looking to step on someone's head to get to the next level, as opposed to holding someone's hand, taking a longer route and getting to the top together.
Yeah, that's a lot more of a lifetime value to that relationship.
I also just think it's a better way to live life, man. Like who the fuck wants to be at the top with no one?
It's lonely.
Or
and
just
you see that all the time.
Or just a bunch of people who are just there because of who you are. Like that's gotta, I mean like fucking Elvis like essentially killed himself over that shit.
I mean, dude, even for me, I'm nobody that special, but I know around my birthday and Coachella and big pool parties, everyone and their mom calls me. And it trips me out. That's how I know like if somebody's my real friend or if they're just somebody that wants to be at the cool party.
Shit, dude, I haven't heard from you from like second grade. Like I forgot who you are. Like we're not fucking friends.
It trips me out all the time. And the people that actually care are always going to hit you up about something very random, something either low key or
even just
have
like
a real conversation with you.
Even just fucking lunch.
Literally lunch or the taco stand on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. Dude, where did we go to lunch that one day, that Italian spot?
Louis Trattoria on
Larchmont.
It's amazing.
The place was so good.
So good and so affordable.
Was it?
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember how much it was.
It's like $20 for a appetizer, a meal, and a dessert. And this isn't even a sponsored ad. I just like going there Monday through Wednesday.
That place was really good, though.
That's pretty dope. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right now, I don't know. I don't know if I can say definitely. My goal right now in 5 years is to like have a very major recurring role in a sitcom. I'd love to do comedy. Right now, my favorite actor is Chris Pratt.
Okay.
I think he shows the diversity that I aspire to have as an actor moving forward. Starting out with Parks and Rec, like Parks and Rec was what made me like kind of really like appreciate and love his work. And then seeing how he transitioned into film, and I'm not fully certain that that's the route that I want to take, but I like his style of comedy is just totally who I am.
Yeah, I can definitely see that too. Just as a person, you're a bit quirky like him.
I like to say what's on my mind. And in all honesty, I just don't give a shit like how people react, because I don't think people should react poorly to anything. Like my tagline is "fuck your art," and it's literally just it's a social thing. Like I think as an artist, anyone should be able to say, "I don't like what you do," and you as an artist should be okay with that, because as an artist, you're not meant to please everyone.
Plus, that would look dope on a t-shirt.
Right? Fuck your art.
That sounds like such a sick, like one of those denim jackets. Yeah. I can see that as a denim jacket.
To bring Luca back into it. So Luca and I were talking about like just like musicians, and he told me something that was really interesting. But in order to go platinum for a record, you have to appeal to like 0.4% of the population, which is, I think, just drills into, I think it should drill into everyone's mind that you don't need to try to appeal to everyone. Appeal to yourself, because you are not alone. There are other people like you. I mean, it's why like punk rock is so big. Most people in LA would not listen to punk rock, but punk rock is fucking huge. Like if you do what you're actually passionate about and are just who you are, as opposed to just trying to make the next number one single, I think that's what creates success. It's
the risks.
Yeah.
It's taking those risks that are true to what you are.
Being true to you. Yeah. I think it's a huge thing. I think it translates into everything.
That's such a trip. Now, what are you currently working on? You're in acting class?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of acting classes. I'm interviewing with, meeting with a bunch of acting managers. I'm doing creative direction for a social media brand that represents about 60 different brands. And I coordinate their shoots, book models, all this stuff. And still just shooting a bunch. I work at Nordstrom. I shoot for Nordstrom's in Seattle a bunch.
You're not working in the physical retail store?
Thank God it hasn't.
Next to the billboard of yourself, they're like, hey, aren't you that guy right up there?
Thank God it hasn't come to that yet. And then, I mean, I told you, I just shot one of the latest big, I think it's more of like a social media campaign for AG Jeans.
Okay.
So we went to Elysian Park yesterday and rode my motorcycle around, and
that's an amazing day. You feel so free on a bike.
Oh my God, dude. That was the easiest day of work I've ever had.
You're like, I would have done this for free, and I got a new pair of riding jeans.
Dude, they decked me out in like a whole new wardrobe. Like literally, like, I don't know, 6 pairs of jeans, like 3 t-shirts, like 4 jackets, some overcoats. It's all fall shit.
Oh, that's a trip. That must have been hot yesterday.
We did it at 6 o'clock in the morning, so it was perfect.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, I mean, I'm gearing up for my sister's wedding. My sister's getting married, and I'm the officiant. So I'm an ordained minister for anyone who wants to get married and wants to use me.
Okay. What's your favorite curse word?
I like calling people a butthole.
Okay. I thought it was going to be fuck.
I do love fuck, but I think fuck is overused. But if I call you a butthole, and if we're in a serious argument and I call you a butthole, you're going to stumble.
No, for sure. That's just definitely going to put a pause in that conversation.
If we're in a heated argument, like, you butthole, you'd be like, what the You just call me a butthole?
Who says that? Who says that?
I like fuck though, but it has to, when I type it out, it's FHUCK because the fuck.
That's too funny, guy.
What's yours?
I'd probably say shit. I use a lot of Boston slang, so it's like, it's wicked pissa. It's something that's good.
That sounded more English.
I know. Basically, a Boston accent, in my opinion, is an English accent blurred because it's colder.
Okay. I appreciate that.
You know, we want to have a nice, posh British accent, but...
It's like Joe Rogan said. He's like, you can tell like where the climate sucks based on the accent. And he's like, yeah, it's like Boston. He's like, we just need to stick together.
Yeah. No, everyone looks like haggard by the weather because it is that cold. And that's why people are so angry all the time.
Dude, when we were in Boston, it was fucking cold as balls.
Yeah, it was brick. It was brick outside.
I slept in the car that night too, and it was the worst thing on planet Earth.
I mean, that could be a reality show in LA. Homeless models of LA.
Did they try that actually? Like, because the fact is, like, most models are broke.
No, I've met girls that have like billboards, bookwork all the time, and I think that they're rich, and then I find out that they're literally been living in their car for like the past year.
So do you want to know why?
Why?
So essentially is what happens is like models, if you don't have money, so I lucked out because when I moved to New York, I had a full-time job before, right? And I was living at home. So I was able to stockpile money. And then I moved in with Luca, so I didn't have rent, and his mom was paying rent. But most of these agencies, the way that they guarantee that they make money is they do what they call advances. So if you lived in Chicago and I wanted to book, I signed you and I wanted you to come out to LA, I'd make it so that it wouldn't cost you a dime. I'd book your plane ticket, I'd handle your accommodations and all this shit. But at the end of the day, like, you're just stacking
debt.
Debt. And so every job you do is going to come to me, but that's after the 20% that the modeling agency takes. So like $1,000 job, you're only getting paid $800. The rest of it's coming to me, and you still have to pay tax
On all of it.
Yeah.
That's a trip.
And so
is that where modeling houses come into play too?
Yeah, but so the model houses is where the agencies super clean up, because they'll set like a price. Like when I was in New York and I lived in one for a little bit, everyone paid $800 a month. It was a big apartment, but during Fashion Week, there were 12 people in it, and everyone's still paying $800 a month. And that literally, I mean, we're sleeping in triple bunk beds. Like, I mean, beyond, it was not legal.
I don't even know how that works because you're a tall guy.
Dude, I kicked out the baseboards of a twin size bunk bed.
I believe it.
It was the worst thing on planet Earth though, but like, and you're like stepping over people while you sleep because everyone's getting up at different times, going to bed at different times. But so, I mean, they're making like probably 10,000 times what they're paying the mortgage for. And it's totally against code, but most of the models are working without a visa. So no one can say shit. So what happens is these models have these agencies all over the world because you have a different agent in every city. Mm-hmm. And they go and they work for a while, and then they accrue debt, and it gets to a point where they accrue so much debt that they can't go back. And that's why models just disappear.
That's true. You only see a certain model in a certain city for so long before they move to the next city.
Yeah. And then they may come back like a couple years later, but then all of a sudden they're never back. And it's because they aren't making enough money to pay that agency back.
That's such a trip.
And they could be booking huge jobs.
That is such a trip.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Kind of like educational debt.
100%.
You're paying a fee to get your foot in the door, and then you just got to know how you can repay that or be very strategic about it.
Yep.
That's so gnarly.
It's kind of fucked up.
It is fucked up. You know, it's such a.
But it's a business model. I mean, like
it's the real world of that game.
I totally understand it. I mean, it makes sense why they do it, and like I guess if I were in their situation, I would probably do the same thing. It's just like, I mean, they instill so much false hope in all these individuals, dude. I mean, like you get one booking and you're stoked, and then you get like a paycheck for like, at that point, like if you haven't paid your shit yourself, like you get a paycheck for like $40, or you get a bill that says like you owe this much. You're like, what the fuck, dude? I just did a job.
It's even worse.
They're like, yeah, we just took it all. We did.
That's such a trip. Well, you've done an amazing job of being able to navigate those pitfalls since the Levi's deal.
I got super lucky, man. I mean, it was all a mistake. Everything was a mistake, but it all happened for a reason.
But I mean, that's how life comes together. You got to take the best situation out of those mistakes and build something out of it.
I couldn't agree more.
So before we wrap up, can you tell everybody where they could find you on social?
Yeah, I mean, on Instagram, it's literally the only thing I'm on. It's at Robert Sidney Mull, and it's RobertSidneyMull. And that's me.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the New Hollywood podcast. We're going to be continuing to interview other great people in the fields of business, fashion, entertainment, and a lot more other lifestyles, which is going to be coming at you. You can download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and many more places. And new places are going to be popping up. We're going to post it there too. So you don't have to worry about missing it. I'm going to be all over your face.
Thank you for
about that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, Rob.
This.
And you can follow us at New Hollywood on Instagram and Facebook, and you can follow myself at Ashwin Jacob. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.